Hoi no rā, I can assure you the world looks different from up here. Hoi no rā, te arawa waka, te arawa tangata, tēnei te mihi atu rā kia koutou. Ngā mihi rā mō o koutou manaaki ia mātou katoa. Tēnā koutou. Ko kaipara te moana, ko hoti o te awa, ko maunga atua te maunga, ko puatahi te marae, ko Ngāti Hine te hapu, ko Ngāti Whātua te iwi. Tēnei te mihi atu rā kia koutou. Ko taku taharanga tira tēnā. Taha ki taku pāpa no te whenua o ngā tarara. My grandmother comes from on the coast of Croatia, from a place called Derivnik, and my grandfather comes from the other end of Croatia, from a place called Kotsica. So te tahi taha oku tino mātenga koe, and te taha kaha no tātou o te hunga kāinga. I am a grandmother. I'm a mother of 3 daughters and 2 sons. I am the grandmother of 19 mokopuna, 13 grandsons and 6 granddaughters. I am the great-grandmother of 23 greats, 12 great-grandsons and 11 great-granddaughters. And by the end of this year, I will have 25 greats. And I think that is called immortality guaranteed. Te kaupapa o tō tātou hui e tātou mā, Transforming Indigenous Communities Suicide Prevention Conference. I want to start by acknowledging the bro, Mike King, for the work that he does with our youth in the schools, who think that nobody wants to hear them, and then Mike shows up. Mihi atu ana rā kia koe. Suicide e tātou mā is agonizing. Whatever our experience as grandparents, as parents, as children, as siblings, as whanau, close or remote, suicide is agonizing. It hurts, and it hurts deeply. There are many great people who work with great processes to support those of us who are left behind, but it still hurts. And the question that always forms is why? Why did they do that? And then a mix of emotions, from guilt to anger to despair, heart-rending grief. There will be professionals in the room today who know only too well the many ways that grief will manifest itself. It is a roller coaster. Today and tomorrow, we will gain some great insights from the speakers and the conversations and the rich kōrero that will occur. But we must be honest and say there is no quick and easy set of answers, rules or guidelines or actions that will instantly address the rate of suicide in Indigenous communities. The statistics horrify us, and they often appear to get worse. I heard the previous chief coroner, Judge McLean, speak the other day, and he spoke about the difference in statistics, the high statistics of suicide, as opposed to the high statistics of what is known as accidental deaths, i.e. an overdose is not always considered to be suicide. It is an accidental death, and they are left to do their numbers. But the statistics still horrify us. I'm not a clinician or a professional. Isn't that funny? That's the second one up here that's not a professional or a clinician or a counsellor for that matter. And so my kōrero may seem ahua simple, but I believe it is simplicity that we need, because as much as anything, it is the complexity and confusion of the modern world that is a contributor to people taking their own lives. There are 3 simple things that I believe will go a long way to us impacting suicide rates. I have no idea how quickly, but I know in my heart that these 3 things are the core of what it will take to save lives. Number 1, listening. Ata hakarongo atu. Loving and belonging. Love and listening are actions and practices that we can grow. Belonging is what can achieve through a powerful commitment to love and to listening. Whakarongo, to listen. It is such a simple skill, it would seem, but how good are we at it? In our modern world, I would suggest, we are more and more distracted than ever before. There's so much going on vying for our attention. Our devices, smartphones, tablets, laptops, our work, our whanau, all come at us 24/7, relentlessly. We live in an age of distraction, and so the simple skill of listening becomes fractured, distorted, interrupted. How often every day we are party to a conversation where one of us is distracted. The person may be in front of us at the end of a phone or a text, but we or they are often preoccupied. And if we are listening, are we listening beyond the words? Are we listening with feeling to feeling? Last week, I watched the powerful video of a San Francisco cop. Kevin Briggs is a humble man whose beat had been the Golden Gate Bridge, one of the favorite places in the world to commit suicide. He had attended hundreds of attempted suicides on the bridge over more than 20 years. And his message from that extensive experience was simple. He listened. He really listened. He would often sit out on the edge of the bridge for hours at a time, and he listened. And of the hundreds of people he listened to, over the years, only 2 jumped. Now that's pretty phenomenal statistics, but that's still too many. Kevin did not have clever answers and advice, he simply listened. And he listened with the profound belief that suicide is preventable and there is hope and a life for every person. So what does it take to listen? We all have the capacity to listen, and that is not just about the use of our ears. Our tupuna, our ancestors were great storytellers. They led a full and successful life. And they claim that the hardest thing is to listen to your own instincts, your personal intuition. It always whispers. It never shouts. It is very hard to hear. To be heard is to be seen, and to be seen and to be heard is an acknowledgement. Acknowledgement can offer a sense of worth, of value, of belonging. Our modern world has distracted us from listening deeply. If we think of our lives several hundred years ago, or just 50 years ago, there was no electricity, no engines, no industry. The sounds of the natural world around us and the sound of voices would have been far more clear. We would have heard and acknowledged subtle sounds. There is no going back to this time, so our challenge is to make time in our modern world to be still, to listen, to focus. For our intention is to awaken our own personal intuitions. That is, our inner tuition does not speak with a loud voice. So we have to listen and listen to ourselves in order to be clear that we are listening to others. It takes much courage to sit down and listen, as it does to stand up and speak. For today, the stillness of listening with intent will be an interruption and a disruption to the busy world that occupies us. So take the courage to take the time to listen. And what is more, take the time to listen without judgment. It is all too common for us to listen with our intention focused on judging what is being said and thinking of a reply, rather than listening from an intention to understand. It takes time for people to express themselves, especially about something that is difficult, emotional, or uncomfortable. And often people cannot find the right words. So taking the time to listen without expectation, without judgment, without a desire or a demand that people articulate themselves as you would like to hear them, is a powerful service to others. Today we have become pretty tricky at hiding our isolation and despair. If people do ask, "How you doing?" we'll go, "Oh, sweet as. Mate ana I te ora. All good." We take it as an intrusion if someone questions us any further. We can listen with our eyes and with our bodies, along with our ears. To listen is to love. And that brings me to the second action, love. This four-lettered word has so much power. It also has so many contexts. We use the word love to express so many different things. Last week, a renowned professor of Maori studies, Hakoai Harai te Maori, Dame Anne Salmon, wrote to set the record straight about Maori men and their history of being loving fathers. Now, that is not the predominant belief of much of our society today. Our men show up in so many statistics relating to violence and domestic abuse. The common narrative has become that our men were always warrior-like and violent as well. Dame Anne, as a thorough academic, published first-hand accounts of missionaries and early Europeans who were deeply impressed by the loving family life in Maori communities. The accounts clearly show that children and all members of the tribe were loved and were listened to. She quotes a trader named Joel Pollack as saying in 1840, "It is not uncommon to see young children of the tender years sitting next to their parents in the councils, apparently listening with the greatest of attention. They ask questions and the chiefs answer them with an air of respect, as if they were a corresponding age to themselves. I do not remember a request of an infant being treated and with neglect, or a demand from one of them being slighted. Now, this sort of scene can be found on some of our marae today, but sadly it is too often the exception rather than the rule, particularly in the urban environments most of our people inhabit. For me, the antidote speaks volumes. It speaks of three simple things that can make a difference: listening, loving, belonging. When we leave these rooms in 2 days' time, what might we all do differently than what we did when we arrived? We will talk and we will listen. We will feel we belong to something here, a group that has a common interest and a common purpose, and very often a common experience. We will experience love as our hosts will be making a huge effort to offer us manaaki, and they already have, which is our Maori tradition, to make all feel that they belong, that they are welcome, comfortable, are well fed, housed, provided for, and loved. We might well experience kōrero that gives some very specific answers to some questions, but ultimately it will be the simple things that we feel in our hearts that will assist us to take action for change. For us Māori, as with most other Indigenous peoples, we have experienced narratives that have run for hundreds of years that our ways are second-rate, primitive, savage, unintelligent. We have taught that we've been taught that we are inferior to the Western world. That our culture and our lifestyles are no good and don't belong. Menga, menga. So today, we have generations of this attitude to undo. But to be listening, loving people who ensure that everyone in our whanau, our hapu and iwi belong is actually deeply embedded in our DNA. We do know how to do this, so perhaps we can look to the title of this conference in a different way, beyond transformation. Perhaps we are talking about is a return to what we already know. Sure, we wish to transform what is not working for our people today, but it is true, the conditions that surround them and the interruptions to their well-being must be transformed. There can be a merging of Western world practices and those of our ancient cultures. The late Reverend Maori Marsden, a scholar of both cultural and biblical traditions, wrote of how the new physicists such as Einstein, Planck and Heisenberg discovered three theories that aligned with the Maori worldview. They talked about a world of sense perception. That is the physical world around us, and the real world, which is the unseen world and what might be called a spiritual realm. E kia nā wetahi o tātou te wāhi ngoro. And then thirdly, the world of symbol, where the human mind creates and models and maps to reconcile the world of the senses and the real world that is unseen. These theories consisting of a series of processes and complex patterns of energy that coincide with the Maori worldview. It is addressing the unseen world and the world of symbols that is going to lead to the healing of our people. For the modern Western worldview of health and well-being does not take account of this. For those of our people in despair, suffering, and in pain who no longer want to be here, processes that connect us up, a sense of belonging that reaches into the unseen and symbolic world is what will lead to our healing. It has been my own personal experience that when I have worked with unwell, unhappy people and taken account of what has been missing for them in the unseen world and the world of symbol of our tradition, our tikanga, that healing has occurred. When times get hard and we lose our way, what is it that can take us back, that can center us, hold us and love us without condition? When we look to those we trust, but for many in our community, they believe there is no one left that they can trust. But what is unwavering in its love is our spiritual and natural world. We can offer people pathways to these places and feelings of unconditional love. Maybe, just maybe, we can turn around those statistics where our people look to taking their own lives to end pain. I will leave you with a quote from Sir James Henare. Tawhiti rawa tō tātou haere ngā te kore haere tonu. Maha rawa wā tātou mahi te kore mahi tonu. We have come too far to not go further, and we have done too much to not do more. Nō reira e tātou mā, tēnei te mihi atu rā kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, kia ora hui hui anō rā tātou katoa.
Poko poko te tani wha, rangiriri te rākau, whakangau i te tai, hoi roa te ngaru, kai para hakarere wahine, kai para hakarere wahine. Tēnā rā koutou ngā rangatahi o te kāinga tēnā rā koutou.
Nui rawa te mihi atu ki a koe Rangimarie Naida Glavish. Ho mai te pakipaki anō whanau.